And when I came around the corner, the active shooter, he was right there with the gun pointed at me. And thank God that his gun had got jammed.
And it's just absurd that this happens over and over and over again. And we got to change something in this country.
If you need help, it's okay to not be okay. It's okay to not hold it to yourself.
And I want to thank the school district, again, and our first responders for running towards danger to save our children, to save our staff and students.
I do believe that their quick actions save lives.
I think the community can find some solace, and they've got a good group of first responders here.
Scenes of terror, panic, and violence playing out in our hometown. A South St. Louis City magnet school, now the center of national attention tonight after a gunman opened fire. The Central Visual and Performing Arts High School is located just steps from Tower Grove Park near the intersection of Arsenal and South Kings Highway. This campus also home to the Collegiate School of Medicine and Bioscience. More than 600 students attend both schools. Tonight, we know at least 2 people are dead, and we've learned the identity of one woman killed, Jean Kutchka. She was a health and PE teacher there at Central VPA High. A 16-year-old girl also died today. 7 others, all 15 and 16-year-olds, were hospitalized. The gunman was also killed after a shootout with police just after 9 o'clock this morning, and police have since identified him as 19-year-old Orlando Harris. They say he graduated from the school last year. Now the FBI asking anyone who was on scene, students, staff, parents, to send pictures from that shooting as they investigate. Now we want to get to our Corey Stark. He continues our live team coverage from outside the South City School.
Paige, this is a breaking story that is still developing tonight, 9 hours after the gunman opened fire on this South City High School campus. We have live team coverage for you tonight, a crew of reporters bringing you the latest developments and reactions that are still pouring in from the community tonight. Our Jenna Ray hearing from police who just gave an update on the situation in the last hour. Jenna.
Corey, just minutes ago, we learned inside police headquarters, Orlando Harris did attend CVPA High School and graduated just last year. Police also saying he had no prior criminal history. But what's shocking is police say they found about a dozen magazines on Harris today in the school with more than 30 rounds of ammunition inside each of those magazines. Now, we're going to take you back to the scene this morning. Students say they believe Harris entered through the north side of the high school, shooting through the glass doors. For now, police are not confirming how Harris was able to enter the locked building. In less than 5 minutes, dozens of first responders, including police, firemen, and paramedics, were at the school, stopped the shooter, and were able to save hundreds of students and dozens of teachers. Police Chief Michael Sachs says had officers not practiced this active shooter protocol and responded in a timely manner, this could have been much worse.
8 minutes isn't very long. So, and if you've seen the high school, it's big. And remember, there's only a couple entrances and exits, and there's 700 kids and like 80 staff coming out. So you're kind of pushing against the tide.
The FBI is now looking further into Orlando Harris, given he didn't have a prior criminal background. However, we're asking the questions tonight. What was on his social media? Trying to get answers on what led up to Harris going to CVPA and collegiate high schools. Earlier this morning, the FBI and SLMPD also actively investigating his movements today and months prior. More on this for you coming up tonight only on News 4 at 10. For now, we're live downtown. Jenna Ray, News 4.
Jenna, thank you for that update. And as Paige mentioned earlier in the show, we have confirmed the woman killed was Jean Kutchka. According to the school's website, she was a health and physical education teacher at Central VPA High School, and she began her career at St. Louis Public Schools back in 2002 at Carr Lane and has been at Central VPA since 2008. She lived in Jefferson County and was a wife and a mom of 5. Our Gabriela Vidal continues our live team coverage tonight. She was with families and parents as they reunited with their students earlier today. Gabby, a lot of emotion throughout the day as those reunifications happened.
Yeah, definitely, Corey. It was very emotional, a lot of anger, stress, but also relief as families reunited here in front of Gateway STEM. This is where students were dropped off after they had evacuated from CVPA earlier this morning. And actually earlier today, I got to meet with a former student of Jean Kushka. She spoke to me earlier today about this woman. She was highly regarded for being a PE and health teacher at the school, and also was just someone that people really loved and respected. Like you said, she was a mother of 5 and also had multiple grandchildren, and this is what her former student had to say about how much she meant to her.
She was one of the few teachers I could say that actually valued her students and wanted to make sure that we did well. The thing that stood out about me or about her is that she stood at her doorway every day. She greeted us every day that we came in the class. If you were walking down the hallway, she would speak with you. She was very, very friendly and very personable. She was just a great teacher.
Now, Kushka graduated Lindbergh High School in 1979 and attended Missouri State on a field hockey scholarship. She was later inducted into the Missouri Sports Hall of Fame in 2010 and began her career in St. Louis Public Schools, like we said, as a PE teacher in 2002 at Carlane, later transitioning to teaching health, PE, and personal finance when she started at Central VPA in 2008. Now, Tatiana Bell, the woman we just heard from, Kushka's former student, tells me she will never forget how much she smiled a lot during the day, enjoyed life, and cared for each of her students.
If anything, to live life. I know she loved the outdoors. She actually showed us that she lived in a cabin at one point. So just to enjoy life and take every day for what it is.
Now, just like we said, this is the place where students were picked up earlier today. Obviously, quiet now because all students have been picked up at this time from their families following today's shooting. We're still working to get more information on the identity of the female student who was shot and killed earlier this morning, and we will provide more information as it becomes available. Reporting live in South City, Gabriela Vidal, News 4.
Gabby, thank you. I want to bring in News 4's Caroline Hecker. Caroline, you've been here on the scene throughout the day. You've been talking with families. You've been talking with police. One of the questions that people have, but we don't still have an answer yet, is how was the shooter able to get into the school building?
And I think that's one of the major questions that everybody still has. And I can tell you some of the only activity left here on the campus is by this side door over here to our side. You can see underneath the door handle, there appears to be a panel of glass that was shattered. That glass still remains on the cement, and they have put up that crime scene tape. That's new in the last hour or so, and we have seen not only district officials but police officers coming in and out of that door. Again, police have not officially said how this gunman got inside of the building, but this certainly seems to be an area of great interest for police. Of course, a very chaotic scene this morning as students ran out of the building. Some jumped out of windows, they said, to get out of the building. We caught up with one of those students, and he describes in horror about what he saw.
Scared. It happened. We were in the middle of class, couldn't walk through the halls. They said, everyone make sure your students are not in the hall and things like that. And then eventually it was locked down, and then the police came knocking on the door. We walk out the classroom. The police are holding guns. They're pointing in directions. They're covering the back end of the hall, pointing. They're closing doors, so they're closing doors and things like that. We're walking out the building. It's blood on the ground and stuff like that. We see students covered in blood. I see a lot of kids. It was kids crying everywhere, and it was like overwhelming. Really, it was just overwhelming. I really couldn't really notice my surroundings. It was. You see it on the news all the time. You know, we go through those drills and things like that, but you never actually expect that something could actually happen like that.
Now, Now, the rain is starting to come down here in South St. Louis. The memorial behind us here at the entrance of the high school grows. We continue to see people coming by, praying together as a family. Corey, we know there's been a lot of activity at this corner as people really try to grasp what happened today and how do we move forward from this as a community.
Yeah, and you mentioned the memorial that's growing. The people who have come out here, they just said that they want to be here to show support and that St. Louis is a strong community for this high school. Caroline,
absolutely.
Thank you so much. And, you know, a lot of questions remain, of course, for the shooter is why? Why did this happen here at this high school today? And our chief investigator, Lauren Traeger, is trying to learn a little bit of some of the answers and get more information about this suspect. Lauren, we'll send it to you.
That's right, Corey, and certainly those are questions that federal investigators are working actively to answer as well. We are in South St. Louis right now in the Carondelet neighborhood, the 7,000 block of Pennsylvania, at a home here that is believed to be the home where the shooter lived. It was certainly a hub of activity today with a number of federal investigators from both the FBI and the ATF going in and out of that house. We watched them bringing out totes of what appeared to be evidence and at least one computer. There was also a woman on the scene here, really kind of a quiet day, not a lot of emotion, but a woman who seemed to be cooperating with investigators, speaking with them, sitting in a car outside of this home. Now, we called a number for the owner that's listed on public records as the owner of this home. That woman did hang up on me when I did reach her, and we also knocked on the door of this home after the investigators left, and no one answered the door. But again, police indicating that 19-year-old Orlando Harris did live at this address here. Still working to learn a lot more information about him. Doesn't appear to be a large social media presence. We do know that he has no criminal history, according to police, but that he had graduated last year from that school. And the big question, Corey, as you mentioned, is still motive. What motivated him to go into that school today and commit this horrific act? And really, a lot of questions still remain about that. The police would not answer whether or not he had a list or what exactly his motives were and if he was going in to target someone specifically. That is something we are still looking to figure out and asking about. Certainly neighbors here, though, continuing to drive by. Neighbors I talked to say just very shocked that this happened in this neighborhood, that this person lived here. And, Corey, I just want to leave you with one last thing here. There's a sign on this home here that talks about being founded in faith and kept by God. So we are still working to get some more information about that shooter, hear from his family, and of course, as soon as we get new information, we will bring it to you. Corey, back to you.
All right, Lauren Traeger getting us the latest on the suspect. Appreciate that. And before, Paige, I send it back to you, I just want to take one more look at this growing memorial that is outside of the high school entrance as balloons and flowers are gathered by people that have come in the wind, they've come in the rain. It doesn't matter to them because they just want to be here strong for this high school community, for this neighborhood, and for St. Louis in its entirety as we move the days, weeks, months, and years ahead. There's still a lot of questions that we need to get answered, but for right now, it's that image of just remembering these victims that we want to leave you with. Paige, we'll send it back to you.
Corey, I appreciate that. Our coverage will continue here on News 4 at 6. Coming up next, we will hear more from the students inside the school at the time of this shooting. Our live team coverage continues after this break. What was earlier today a place for refuge for students, now a place to mourn. The American flag in front of the Schnucks on Arsenal is at half-staff tonight. Earlier today, that area flooded with parents, students, and school buses. Those students running there to the parking lot for safety as they looked for answers. News 4's Russell Kinsall continues our team coverage tonight. He's at Gateway STEM High School on the Hill. Russell.
Yeah, students from Central VPA were bused here to Gateway STEM Magnet School. Then parents, some with panic on their faces, raced here to pick up their kids.
Scary and frustrating.
Parents raced to Gateway STEM Magnet School, both to pick up children bused from Central VPA and Gateway students. Even though the shooting took place elsewhere, Gateway went on lockdown. Teachers and students took measures just in case.
Basically, he had everyone gigs like a corner. So we wouldn't be seeing anything.
Once we got the news, we literally just
Our teachers told us to go to the back of the room and close the doors. So I just came as fast as I could, and I was waiting here for about 2 hours, and I just got my brother.
FBI agents converged on Gateway STEM School to interview students and staff to find out more about what happened. And one agent served as a translator for Spanish-speaking parents. Emotions ran high as parents demanded to see their students. Eventually, a system was worked out, and parents were slowly but surely reunited with their children. One young woman came here to pick up her younger sister, who was a student at Central VPA. She said she didn't know for a couple of hours whether her baby sister was hurt or was safe.
But she didn't even have her phone, so now we know she's in there, but it's been like hours.
The reunion between Central VPA students and their parents actually took place on the back side of the school, out of the view of the public and of cameras. But a mother who was back there said she saw a lot of tears. Live on the Hill, Russell Kinsall, News 4.
I can only imagine. Russell, thank you. So to help us tonight process what these students and teachers are going through and to help parents talk to their children about what happened, earlier today I sat down with Dr. Jamika Woody Cooper. She's a psychologist in St. Louis and a professor at Webster University School of Education.
They're going to need a lot of time. Time, space, and opportunity to really debrief and process what's happened. So they will need to discuss this with their peers, teachers, parents, families, and probably some professionals, whether on site at the school when things go back to normal or outside of school. They will need a lot of time to be able to get out each and every piece of their thoughts and their emotions.
We've all seen this on the national news, but now it has happened in our own city. So it makes sense that students will worry this will happen at their own school. Coming up tonight on News 4 at 6:30, we're bringing you more resources in the face of today's tragedy. Welcome back to News 4 at 6 o'clock. Right now, we're giving you a live look at a growing memorial from outside of Central VPA High in light of today's deadly shooting there, where 2 people were killed and others were wounded. Prayers from the local sports world tonight are growing as well in response to this morning's deadly shooting in South City. St. Louis City SC tweeting in part, quote, "We are outraged, we are saddened, and we are hurt for St. Louis. Nothing about this is okay. We are committed to supporting those affected by this." The Cardinals also tweeting, "We are heartbroken over the senseless tragedy that took place this morning. Our thoughts are with the victims, their families, and the Central VPA community." The Blues saying in part, "Gun violence continues to plague our country, and today is a tragic reminder that it can happen anywhere, even in our very own neighborhood." The Blues believe in the power of our St. Louis community to come together in support and love for all involved as we try to cope with this unspeakable tragedy. News 4 at 6 continues. A community in mourning. We're following the very latest in the deadly South City school shooting and what's next in the days ahead.
To be here for such a devastating and traumatic situation breaks my heart, especially as a mother.
It's one of those responses that you train for, that you hope that you never ever have to use. But as the reports came in, we knew we were in the middle of something.
There was kids crying everywhere, and it was like overwhelming, really. It was just overwhelming. I can really just see it playing again in my mind, just imagine the scene over and over again.
I need somebody to talk to. Like, I'm going to talk to somebody and go get some food and try to, like, rejuvenate all this, you know. Thank you.
That's it, guys. That's it.
The metro community aching right now. Friends, family, even total strangers coming together tonight to mourn and remember the lives lost in the deadly South City school shooting. This right now is a live look in Tower Grove Park at the main pavilion as we await the start of a vigil there tonight. That vigil coming just hours after police swarmed the Central Visual and Performing Arts High School in South City, just steps there from Tower Grove Park. Students at a St. Louis high school described the horrific scene after a shooter opened fire Monday morning.
We're walking out the building, it's blood on the ground and stuff like that. We see students covered in blood. I see a lot of kids. It was kids crying everywhere.
Some students jumped from windows to escape.
Police officers had like a ladder or something, so they said jump and we're going to catch y'all. So we jumped down and they caught all of us and we started running real fast.
Police say a woman and a teenage girl were killed, along with the shooter, who was described as a man around 20 years old, armed with a long gun. Authorities say officers responded quickly to the scene.
Upon hearing gunfire, they ran to that gunfire, located the shooter, and engaged that shooter in exchange of gunfire.
School officials say the building was locked and 7 security guards were inside the school at the time. Students say they are shaken.
Right now, I'm not going back to school. I can't do it. I'm traumatized. It's sick that people want to have the attention to kill kids.
There have been more than 35 school shootings that resulted in injuries or deaths so far this year. That's the highest number since Education Week began keeping track in 2018. This is what we know about the people killed in today's school shooting. Police say Jean Kuchka was shot to death. She was a health and physical education teacher there at Central VPA High. She was also a wife, mother, and grandmother. Police, though, have not identified the student who was killed. They do say they hope to share her name in the future, but we know she's 16 years old. 7 other people were hospitalized, and investigators also revealed the shooter was 19-year-old Orlando Harris. We're told he graduated from the school last year, and he died today after a shootout with police. Now we continue our live team coverage with Corey Stark. He's been live outside the Central Visual and Performing Arts High School. Corey.
Paige, good evening to you. As we've been talking about, it's not just this high school community that is grieving tonight. It's in the entire St. Louis region that is grieving after this tragedy this morning, and we're all still asking the question, why? One thing I do want to point out has been growing throughout the evening is this memorial that is right outside of the high school, and these 2 gentlemen just brought up some flowers. They're lighting a candle. And this is the scene that we've seen over the last hour or so, people bringing up flowers, bringing up balloons, just paying their respects to the victims, and just remembering that St. Louis is strong, they are resilient, and that is something that we've heard from a lot of people, including someone that I talked to who brought up some flowers just about an hour or 2 ago. Take a listen to what he had to say.
I was heartbroken, honestly. I know St. Louis has a bad problem with gun violence, but to see it happening in our schools is terrible. That St. Louis stands with you, and that we will not forget this.
Moments ago, we showed you a live look of a vigil that's happening in Tower Grove Park. Our Alexis Sotos is there right now with more on that. Alexis?
Corey, we're live here in Tower Grove Park where a growing vigil is taking place outside of the main pavilion. I'm going to have Adam, our photographer, give you a look at that. You can see a crowd of people has gathered here. Mayor Tashara Jones just spoke to the crowd. She says she wanted to take off her mayor hat and put on her mom hat, saying that she feels for the parents today who got those calls, those texts from their children, those calls that no one wants to get. She says that they are standing by as a city to help the victims of this tragedy. Of course, we know the victims that were injured and the tragic victims that were killed in this shooting, but there are a lot of other victims here tonight, community members, fellow students, former students of that high school who are really just trying to process what happened today. So many people have said today, you know, this is something we see happen across the country, sadly, all too often, but nobody really expects it to happen in their own backyard. And for so many people here, in Tower Grove Park that live surrounding this park. This is their backyard. The school where this shooting happened is catty corner to Tower Grove Park. So a lot of the people that have gathered here tonight are neighbors, their friends, their fellow students. We're going to bring you more on this vigil tonight, as well as how the community is mourning, coming up tonight on News 4 at 10. Reporting live, Alexis Zotos, News 4.
Alexis, we'll see you at 10 o'clock. I want to bring in George Sells. He's a spokesperson of the St. Louis Public School District. Thank you so much for being here, George. I want to talk about the emotions of today. There's a lot that's been unfolding, but from a district, how do you guys handle this and start in this grieving process with this community?
Well, we start where we always do, and that's with students and staff, and what can we do for them. And there have been meetings going on all day, work going on all day to address that. We've got resources like counselors, social workers that are going to be available to any student that needs it for as long as they need it. And we are working on outreach with some specific things, particularly for the students in these two schools, but even district-wide. Anybody can go to slps.org, and right on the front page there they can find information on how they can get any mental health help that they need, because we talk a lot about trauma. There is no greater trauma than what happened in this building today, and that is for kids. That is for their families who had to go through that process with them. That is for our faculty and staff, certainly. I had a staff member come out of the building this afternoon. His hand was bleeding. He barely realized it. It's everybody, and so we're going to do everything we can. We've got a lot of people on staff already, and we are bringing more people in as needed, but what I can assure you and what I can assure our families is that the mental health assistance will be there for whoever needs it as long as they need it.
As we've been talking about throughout the day, there's two high schools in this one building.
Correct.
A lot of security is here on site. Talk about the security of the building and what they were involved in that was stopping this threat today.
Our security officers, if I were to call them the unsung heroes, they would shy away from that, but it's kind of what they were. We had 7 officers that were here just as normal, and we've always been public about we don't have armed officers in the school buildings, but these officers, the moment that this started happening, started doing everything they could to both to get the word out and to deter this gunman who had come in with force. And there were shots being fired, and we had unarmed security people running down the hall screaming at people to lock down. I had a commander from the police department come up to me earlier this evening and go on and on and on about how brave those people were. And they got that word out, and our response teams, which we have for the entire district, were the first ones here. And they were very much involved in searching through the building, and they were engaged in the shootout that happened at the end. They put themselves in harm's way right next to those police officers, and as horrible a tragedy as this was, I keep hearing people with the police department talk about how it could have been worse. And these people who are kind of the unsung folks that you walk by the front door every day were a big part of the reason that we have a lot of people who are alive that otherwise might not be.
I know the district isn't getting into how the shooter was able to get into the building for security reasons in the future, but what is the district doing now, or does that process begin tomorrow, if you will, of talking about how can we better secure the building so this doesn't happen again?
I think that is something, obviously that's something that everybody is already thinking about to some degree. There will be a lot of going through what happened detail by detail by detail. Before it's all over with, there will not be a stone unturned as far as what happened. Could we have done anything differently? And that's a big question too, is could we have done anything differently? If you're sitting at a door in front of a metal detector and you're unarmed and somebody comes running at you with an AK-47, there's only so much you can do. And they did everything they could do. And I don't know that that's how people got in. I should be clear about that. It's just, in my mind's eye, I've thought so much about what these people went through today and how hard that was. And I know that our people are going to spend all the time necessary to make sure that parents feel tomorrow as they felt before today, which is that school is often the safest place for their kids to be in the city. And what happened was tragic. It was horrific. But it's such an unexplainable occurrence. Obviously somebody with some serious mental health problems, I would think. So, you know, how do you plan for something like that? And I should tell you, our security people trained with St. Louis Police just a month before school started. Like, they did training for just this sort of thing, and everything I hear is that training very much paid off.